Hi, we are Jimena and Adrieli, and today we're going to talk about Rosa Parks and human rights. So, first of all, we're going to start with an historical background. And so, let's say that for much of the 20th century, racial segregation in the United States of America separated the white and the black populations. Whites consider black people inferior and non-deserving of the same rights as them. Slavery in America and its abolition in 1863 did not change the opinions and beliefs of many white people. Due to that, public and management positions were reserved for them, while black people occupied hard and poorly paid jobs. The segregation law required separate places for whites and blacks, such as schools, restaurants, hospitals, um, or stores. There were even separate water fountains to avoid contact. The buses had separate rows for black people located at the back of the vehicle. And here is where Rosa Parks, a black woman from Montgomery, appears. In that city, as in the rest, each bus had a non-fixed size section for black people that varied according to the placement of a sign. The first four rows were for whites only. People who were not white could only sit in the middle rows if there were no white people standing. If a white person arrived, they had to move to the back, stand, or even get off the bus. The bus driver could reduce the space allowed for these people or even remove the sign. And even boarding was a problem because since black people had to pay in the front door and then get down off the bus and enter from the back door, sometimes the drivers closed the doors when they were on their way to the back doors, so they left them there when they had already paid.
Who was Rosa Parks? First of all, I would like to explain who was Rosa Parks. She was an African American activist, an important figure in the civil rights movement of the United States, for occupying a seat for whites instead of one in the back area, which at that time were for people of color. For such action, she ended up being arrested, which is often cited as part of the movement, and she is recognized as the First Lady of Civil Rights. She was born on February 4th, 1913 in Alabama, United States, the daughter of a marriage formed by the carpenter M.C. Cooley and the teacher Leona Edwards. In 1932, she married with Raymond Parks, a barber and an active member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, known by the acronym in English NAACP. She obtained her high school degree in 1933 with the support that her husband gave her. Rosa was a member of an association that fought for the civil rights of blacks. And after this event, her colleagues started a protest which consists in telling the black community to avoid catching the bus on one Monday.
That Monday turned out to be 381 days, and the boycott to the buses involved 42,000 people, which meant 70% of the users of that vehicle. And finally, in November 1956, the Supreme Court of the United States declared racial segregation on buses unconstitutional. She received many awards throughout her life, such as the Spinger Medal, the highest award from the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and the prestigious Martin Luther King Jr. Award. On September 15, 1996, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the following year, the Congressional Gold Medal.
Has racism been completely overcome? I would like now to discuss if racism still exists today. Racism, intolerance, and xenophobia are still common in all societies, which is why the ONU asks countries to double their efforts to eliminate all these forms of aggression. As for Spain, we can say that there is no racism, but this is not the case. Racism is something deeply rooted in Spain, so much so that we don't notice it. However, in the last 2 decades, anonymous messages and videos full of prejudices have multiplied on social networks, such as they receive more aid than us, they take away our work, if you like them so much, take them in your house, or I'm not racist, but racism and xenophobia have increased year after year, with threats and violence, and this is demonstrated by the reports of the evolution of hate crimes in Spain.
Now, let's talk about why is it important to stand up for our rights and to fight for what we believe to be right. Human rights are essential elements in the life of any person since they promote our personal development, thus providing us with guarantees before justice, freedom of religion, to live in a healthy environment in an equal manner. Defending human rights is seeking democratic and social transformations that imply the appropriation of these rights by all people, so that we can build the destiny of our lives in freedom, without discrimination or fear. Sometimes the law goes against people's rights, as the segregation one, and it requires us to fight and defend the rights we deserve. The world is for everybody, and we all are deserving of living in equal conditions and enjoying our planet and lives.
How to fight it? For this reason, it is necessary to transfer a few ideas from education in order to prevent racism and xenophobia, that unconsciously are still present in the majority of the population. In order to fight this, we can pay attention to people who face racism on a daily basis, raise awareness, challenge everyday discrimination and racism, denouncing racist or discriminatory content that we see on social networks, but above all, apply all this to yourself.